Hello everyone. So in today's video we're going to talk about a Westminster movement. What do I mean with a Westminster movement? Well, I mean a movement that has the Westminster chime. I know at one point Westminster was a brand, but yeah. Westminster as a brand made clocks who had a Westminster chime. However, not all clocks with a Westminster chime are made by the brand Westminster. Just getting that out of the way. I know I have done video which contained Westminster clocks before. I've talked about it, but this video is just going to be purely about Westminster clocks, how they work, and also the ones I showed you in previous videos were not exactly typical as everyone else, and this one is pretty close. So, how do you recognize the Westminster movement in the first place? Well, Westminster movement has three gear trains, which means that you have three weights or three main barrels. So, here you can see you have here, here, and here. That is to wind main barrels. So, that's what is immediately recognizable as a Westminster movement. You also have not one, but two wind vanes at the top. Yeah, it sprung alive for a second there. But yeah, that's also something to recognize. Then there is one exclusion to this, and that one exclusion is this is a full Westminster clock. We call it the full Westminster clock because it will strike, like it will do Westminster in the middle 4 times an hour. It does it before the hour, and then it lets the chime do its work to announce how many hours it is at. However, there is one exception to that, and that is the 3/4 Westminster. And that is a clock that only has 2 gear trains. And, yeah, these 2 gear trains make it that in order to strike the hour, it needs to switch in the mechanism. So there's not enough time to do that, and it's too complicated to do that. So it will not strike the melody on the hour. It will only strike the amount of hours. So that's why we call it 3/4 Westminster, because it only does 3/4 of a real Westminster. And yeah, it only has 2. So it will look exactly the same as a normal clock with a striking mechanism, just with a little bit more. If I ever get a clock like that, I will show it on video, but they're really rare. So let's get into the mechanism. I will talk about how it works, and then about some safety mechanisms that are built in to prevent, well, damage or like error introduced by the user. So basically, those gear trains from the main bevel to the wind vane are basically a reduction, and then there is a way to let them go when they need to. Wind vanes are there because you need a constant, a constant brake on there, because you will be lifting those hammers here, but you won't be lifting them constantly. So in between, you might end up with a runaway effect. When you're not lifting any hammers, your movement is going to accelerate, which is fine, but there's another problem with it. It impacts the sound, because you're lifting those hammers, but the way you lift them is very important for the sound. So if you have a clock that has something wrong with the wind vanes here, you're going to hear that the first few strikes might be okay, but after that it's going to sound like off, because it's accelerating and it's doing weird things with the hammers. So that's why we have the wind vanes there. Another important thing is that on the gears right before the wind vane, there is a little pin, and that little pin allows it to be blocked in certain phases of the striking. So let me show, like I'm going to tip over the movement, and let me quickly show how these pins look like. So you can see one here. There it is. So it's blocked now because it's hitting there. And over here it is there. So it was hitting that lever there. And I will explain why those are important afterwards. So with the Westminster movement, everything is driven from the side of the melody, so the side that is the quarters of the hour. Let me quickly put that back into place. So let me put a clock hand on that, and let me activate it for one time so you can see what's happening, and then we'll explain it. So now it's doing the melody, and now it stops. So what's happening? So I'm going to remove this and this. So here in the middle you can see it's a star, and that star represents the lifting, like this turns once an hour, so if it's divided by 4, it gets lifted every 15 minutes. Also note that this one is longer. I will explain why that's important afterwards. So let's put it back together. This is basically the divider gear, which divides 1 hour in 12 for the 12 hours. So yeah, what's happening? So it is lifting, and let me, every 15 minutes it is lifting. So let me quickly put the hand back on there. So it is lifting. At one point you see it turn here. So it moved a little. So now the gear train is ready to strike, or ready to sound this chime. We call this a pre-strike or pre-chime. So now the thing what happened is, you know the little pin here? Well, it removed one lever. And then because now we are lifting it, the lever we're lifting is that high that it is blocking it in another way. So it was allowed to move a little bit. So now it is ready to go. And the thing that's important is it's ready to go. It means that it's in the right position to have the first time the lifter hammers that the sound will be good. But the thing is, it's important that the hammers cannot be lifted during this process, because that also influences the sound. So now I'm going to turn it further, and the moment this lever falls, it's no longer lifted by one of the points of the star, the melody will sound. See how it fell? Now it's going to strike until it's going to fall in this notch here. Now it has stopped because it could fall. You can see here it went a little bit lower. So now, you know, like it's on the first quarter it runs the melody one time, on the half hour 2 times, third quarter of the hour, 3 times, and then on the hour 4 times. And that's all like regulated by the distances here between. You can see that like the distances always get bigger. That's where it comes from. So the bigger, the more the melody can sound. It's always exactly the right amount of distance to make the melody sound like in multiples of the melody. Now, let's go further, because at one point we're going to become at the strike of the hour. So because we messed with it, self-correction kicked in. I'm just going to turn until it strikes. I'm going to explain the self-correction later. So now, the self-correction is happened. So now you can see that this lever is lifting it here, so this cam can fall down, and now we're going to get the hour strike. So the hour strike is lifting 3 hammers at the same time to give it another sound. Now once this cam is completely lifted, the system will shut itself off. So what we saw happening here, so this point is way higher, so this lifts this lever up more, which allows this cam to fall down in order to strike the right amount of pulses to give the right number of hours. So how does that system work? Well, you can see this this part here. It's shaped like a bit of like a snail. Well, this part is where the hand that indicates the hours fits on. And you can see here there's like a little feeler here. And that little feeler falls onto there. And the deeper it can fall, the more teeth we need to advance here. So the longer this mechanism can be active, so the longer it can strike. So let me just do it manually one time. So you can see this oddly shaped gear, which we call the heart disc, because on a lot of clocks it's kind of shaped like a heart, not too much on this one. It lifts it every time, it catches it here, and then until the lever is completely lifted like now, this lever can go down and it will fall in the notch here, which just shuts the mechanism off, ready to happen again. Now there's also like a pre-strike here. If I gently lift this one up, we will see at one point, we will see it moved a bit, and then it also, that little pin got catched behind this lever, stopping it until I let it go, and now it lets the mechanism run. So that's basically how the whole process works. Now I'm going to come back to self-correction. Why is self-correction so important? Well, self-correction is something that already existed on the movements that just had a striking mechanism, a chime on the hour. And there, well, it was needed, but not so important. However, with this clock being much more complex and the striking mechanism also being much more complex, I think pretty much all Westminsters have a self-correction. I don't think I came across them. No, I haven't. I have came across Westminsters that had a notch cut out on the watch hands, so you could not misalign them. And I don't know what happened if you tried to misalign them. I'm pretty sure there was some protection movement. Can't remember anymore. However, so self-correction. Basically, you can see that, like, on here, all the notches have a certain depth, and they're all the same depth, and unlike the last one here. So the last one there is way deeper, and that's where the one star point under here, the one longer, comes in. So let's say you misaligned this part. You were adjusting the hour, and like you didn't wait properly. You turned too fast, and it's not running correctly anymore. Well, on the hour, it will drop in here, and if everything is in sync, that's fine. It will just do its thing. But if it's not in sync, it will wait on the hour for the longer pin to lift it out of the deeper notch here. That's the self-correction. So yeah, that's how it self-corrects. So it will wait, basically. If it's misaligned, the moment it comes here in the deeper notch, it will just stop doing it until the hour comes by, and then it is in sync again. And once it's in sync again, well, it's fine. So yeah, that's how the self-correction happens. And there is another safety mechanism put into place, and that is, you can see here the little feeler. Well, the little feeler is basically a brass piece, but the little like notch that falls onto this here is spring-loaded. So as you can see, I can push it back, and that's for when you turn backwards. Because as you can see, like, let me turn it backwards. So you can see here it's jumping to, it's also spring-loaded. Like there's the same thing happening back here than it's here. But there's a moment where like I can drive this piece against there. See, I'm now pushing it. It's barely, but yeah, I guess it wasn't really needed on this clock, but it still has it just in case. Like, for example, if this would have been fallen down because this gear wasn't round, the gear train wasn't round up, there could be a position where like I'm driving this against there, and like you should never do turn a clock backwards, and that's the very reason. And even if it has that mechanism up, well, you still shouldn't do it because, well, this is a fail-safe. And like, but don't deliberately try to make the fail-safe work, because this is to prevent an accident. You should never turn a clock backwards. But if you do, this is there to prevent damage, hopefully. It should work, but it might not, so it's always a bad idea to turn a clock backwards. So if this would be a solid pin and you're turning backwards, well, something's going to break. You're going to either break the watch hand, but if it's a sturdy one, you might break something internally. So yeah, we've seen how like the movement goes about, self-correction, how it strikes when it has to, how long, that's all regulated. So now I'm just going to turn it, and then I'm going to show you the like the little melody roll here in action. So let's quickly turn it. So here you can see the melody roll has the little pins. Those little pins lift the hammers. Also here you can see, like, it's not really a reduction, but they're just getting the power from here to there. Like from here to there you have your reduction, but from here it's just like these gears are all the same, so you're just transporting the energy. Now let's see what happens. Oh, how it lifts the hammers for when you do the arrows. Let's do a bit more. So you can see it lifts it here. So basically under that is a gear which has a star shape, and it lifts this lever, and then you have this piece of wire, and then you have this bar which just lifts up 3 hammers. You also have, for moving it around, you can block all the hammers, so you don't have any sounds when it's moving about. And then yeah, that's about it. So yeah, let's just, here you have your pendulum length noted on the movement. But yeah, that kind of covers it. That covers the Westminster movement completely. Yeah, very technical video. If you have any questions, the comment section is there for it. So yeah, that was the video. Hope you liked it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.